one. I think we've started.
Hello. Oh, blimey.
I think we're live on air, Jim.
We're live?
Live. No, we're...
Hello, Mum.
I don't know why. We should do it as a live thing, though, because our group's on Facebook. So sometime we could stream live to the Facebook group. That'd
be lovely. We'd have to find out the right time, though, wouldn't we? I mean...
the peak demographic.
The peak, when everyone's up and eating potato chips and in their pajamas. I don't know. That's the golden hour.
So I thought you'd like to know that last fortnight's podcast got, between YouTube and the website, 150 views.
Nice.
I think that's okay.
That's like 300 eyes. Yeah, if you think of it that way. Unless a few pirates were watching, of course.
I better tell the 150 people who might be tuning in again this time what we're doing.
Yes. Okay. Hello, 150 people. That's,
so we're talking through the week in sci-fi based on whatever has been posted to our sci-fi group. Sci-fi and fantasy group on Facebook.
That's the one. So it's really more like Fantasy Fortnight, isn't it?
It was so far. We haven't committed.
Yeah, that's true. That's
the problem today. We've got a lack of commitment.
Yeah, the kids these days. We come out every Sunday. A bit like Sunday.
Well, Friday,
yeah. It's Sunday.
How are you, Jim Warad?
I'm pretty good.
Are you locked in your house again?
Yeah, can't find the key. We've had another lockdown again in Britain. Of course, in my hometown of Leicester, we've had a lockdown all the time. So we're kind of like Judd Nelson in The Breakfast Club. You know, kind of detention. Yeah, give me another detention, man. I don't care. By this point, you know.
That's true, because there was a lockdown March to May, and then Leicester got like a week off and locked down again.
yeah, for good behaviour.
And now you're going to be locked down until March again.
Yeah, basically, yeah. We just can't get enough of that lovely COVID. I don't know what it is, but, you know, what do you do? How about yourself? What's it like over there? Is it all good and sunny? How are the cats?
The cats are very good. Well, they were just here. They were right beside me. They had their first encounter this morning with another cat, because there's a black cat that kind of runs through the garden, and I don't think they've ever seen it before. And then this morning it was like all fur and you know, high awareness.
Yeah, just
I've been trying to raise them to be like brave warrior kittens. But there's two of them and they're brothers, and they just ran away. From the other cat. But I guess that's quite smart of them.
Yeah. They think they'll probably get someone else to do the fighting for them. That's the trick. Mm-hmm. That's bless.
So we've got a sponsor, sponsor. I feel this is important for every podcast to have a sponsor, and it's my course.
Like we're proper now.
Yeah, my course in sci-fi and fantasy, writing the 21st century myth.
Oh, right. So, pray tell, what's that about?
Well, I decided to, as someone who struggles to pronounce my THs, I decided to organize a course where I'd have to repeatedly say the word myth over and over again, which has been pointed out by my students. No, but I've got this lifelong love of writing and of teaching writing and of sci-fi, and they have come together in trying to make like an advanced course for science fiction, because I think you can go and get like the basic information on world building and genre tropes, but I wanted to go deeper and get into stuff. So we've done workshops on things like the Novum. Have you heard of
is
the
that like
novum,
the
Jim?
story idea, the seed?
Yes. Yeah, the story seed. Like we're going to do in the next one. So I've been researching for this one, Hero's Journey. How to map out your story with a hero's journey. We're going to get into some Jungian archetypes as the course progresses.
Yeah. So it's looking at the sort of the Holy Ghost of writing rather than the Son and the Father. The sort of, that's a really bad analogy.
It's a great analogy, Jim. I'm going to use it at some point. At some point, yeah.
Spirit. Yeah, I see that. Yeah. I imagine there's a lot of call for it. I'll have to have a gander myself. Fantastic.
Well, it'd be great. It'd be great to maybe we'll interview at some point for the course, Jim. Because what I also want to do, and I've wanted to do this for years, is interviews with some of the great writers of science fiction and fantasy. So I've got a list of people I'm trying to get at the moment. Because now we're in the age of Zoom, it's much easier to get everybody.
Yeah. You know, that's great like that, isn't it? Otherwise, a lot of bit writers, they're very busy, but there's a lot of time. There's a lot of downtime. They're just sort of sat on their ass or whatever. You can squeeze that bit of time out of them. You know, yeah, why not? I admire your ambition. Let's make this happen.
So it occurred to me as well. It occurred to me that what have you got there? Dry roasted
nuts. I hope you
actually, this is a way. This is a way to build your podcast revenue. That you do ads for people who aren't sponsoring you yet, but you want them to. So if you're out there watching at the moment, go and buy some KP roasted nuts from your local supermarket and tell them the Week in Sci-Fi sent you and you're a fan of Jim Warad.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is, even if you don't like peanuts, you can use them to throw them at the screen at our faces. So, you know... Well, it occurred to me this week, Jim, that we've started doing a roundup of the week in sci-fi news at a time when there's significantly less happening in sci-fi because all of the cinemas are closed. So none of the big films we've been waiting for are coming out. A lot of the TV production is shut down. And even the publishing trade has been disrupted because, of course, a lot of the bookshops aren't open. So a lot of the book releases have been pushed back. And even audiobook sales have crashed because people aren't going to work and people listen to these things on their commute. And now people are home working and the whole market for audiobooks has been affected as well. Yeah, I thought that would have gone shot up, you know, but you never know with these things, do you? So what has done well? Indoor theatre? No, that hasn't. What's left? Crochet?
I think people talking to each other on Zoom.
Yeah,
this is the new entertainment. We've returned to a completely oral culture. So instead of going and watching movies, we gather around on Zoom and we just tell each other stories.
Yeah. So you better get good at telling stories. Well,
you're a natural. You're a gifted storyteller. You could do this. You could be a bard.
Yeah. Oh, bless. I haven't got the floppy hair for it really, and
got some booming tones though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. More kind of Orson Welles.
Talking of interesting voices, the big story this week on the group, most shared post in the last 14 days or so, the very sad demise of Sir Sean Connery.
Oh, Sean, yeah. Tragic, isn't it? Well, I suppose I say tragic. He had great innings, didn't he? What, 90?
He was 90. Yeah, his wife has revealed that he was unfortunately senile. He'd been suffering with senility by the end. So we hadn't seen him for a few years because he had an odd-shaped career, Sean Connery, because he became super famous doing Bond. Yeah. And what often happens with Bond people, they do a few more films, but everyone still thinks they're James Bond. So it doesn't matter what they do, they're still James Bond. So Connery disappeared for almost 20 years, I think. He popped up now and again. And then he had a very big comeback. I remember in the 90s, I think. He did things like The Rock.
The Rock,
Medicine Man.
Name of the Rose.
Name of the Rose. That's definitely one of his best films.
Yeah.
Brilliant book. I would think of it in, I know it's a historical novel, but I think of it in the sci-fi and fantasy world. The Name of the Rose.
Because it's so isolated. It's on a monastery, middle of a snowy place, and it's got the medieval mentality, and it doesn't really go out of its way to explain so much. It's very well written like that, and it's very interesting. So it is like this little landscape. I can see that. Yeah. It's
well, you got that super high concept in there of the what is, because Aristotle wrote three books, and his Commedia was lost. But they've spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. It's like a medieval murder mystery, and it turns on this lost Aristotle book, which is being hidden away because the monks don't want people to laugh.
That's it. Yeah. When a monk laughs, his face is like a monkey. I believe it's one of the lines in it.
Oh, because it's got who was that actor? I can't remember his name at all, but he had an amazing look.
Christian Slater. Christian Slater's arse. He gets it out in that one, doesn't he?
No, he looks. He's not that guy, but he looks like the guy who played Hellboy a bit. He's got a big head. Is it the guy who played Hellboy?
It is.
It is. No, it is.
He says, "Yeah, that guy. He's like a mad monk, isn't he? Which is his perfect role. He was, typecast again." Yes, he's in it. Loads of people are in it. It's fantastic. The thing is, though, with Sean Connery, though, is his last film was that it actually pissed him off so much he stopped making films. And that was The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He had such a bad time with the director.
Oh, yeah.
And that, so
it was a travesty.
That was that's the last film. It feels like it should have been a nice little other film he could have done. Yeah, just wrap it all up.
Well, but, it's one of those things about having a legendary career, because I believe that Orson Welles' last role was as the voice of Unicron in Transformers the movie.
Which is bizarre, isn't it?
Because your early career, in fact, we're going to talk about Orson Welles today, because you posted about his fake War of the Worlds as well. In fact, you made a perfect Orson Welles face, young Orson Welles face, just a second ago. It was identical. Yeah.
I can pause
if you're watching now, you can rewind and see the face of Orson Welles.
Pick your favourite Orson Welles face. Yeah. It's kind of ironic that he made War of the Worlds, and then at the very last he became a world at war. High concept guy, Orson.
This proves to me that life is not just a random kind of materialist process of colliding atoms. There's some underlying meaning here, because these things just happen too often. Sean Connery's last movie, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and he was the most extraordinary gentleman. In his life, and it's his most famous character. As Bond as well. The world's most extraordinary gentleman. I'm quite proud of Sean, because one of the things I thought about this was that it made me think a lot about mortality, because we're in this time. We've got the US presidential election, we've got COVID happening, Donald Trump, and the world's really focused on this stuff. And poor old Sean Connery passes. There's like a bunch of tweets about it, and then it's gone straight away because the news cycle's just too busy for it. So you go from being like one of the most famous people who's ever lived. Probably there won't be people as famous as Sean Connery again, because we don't have like the same concentration of media.
Yeah.
And then you die, and you get some tweets.
About that's it.
You. So none of us will last. But the thing that's going to last longest about Sean Connery is that picture of him from Zardoz.
Yeah.
And to me, it seems like the most humiliating thing he ever did. And that picture has become the meme. Well, he carried it off, I have to say, for his day. Because it was that period when men were men and, you know, a manly man. He had broad shoulders, you know, big, broad chest, but he wasn't muscular. He didn't have superhero muscles, and he wasn't waxed. He was hairy, kind of from head to toe. And then you got Sean in, you know, basically a red latex bondage outfit, holding a revolver, and he's balding with a ponytail. And that image has become the meme. So you see that memeified all the time, and that could still be around in like 10,000 years. Sean's been forgotten. Nobody knows who he is.
It'll be one of the letters in some future alphabet. So him stood there like that. You know, a little symbol you do. It's
you want to express.
I don't know. You say embarrassing. I say personal life goals for me. I want a balding ponytail and a leotard standing around outside Tesco's.
That's the thing, Jim. You could carry it off. If I accidentally took on the role in Zardoz, I'd never live it down, but it would just big up your personality.
Oh, thank you. You're basically just saying I'm absurd. But,
I mean it in a good way.
Oh, bless. But it's all about... You're right. A quieter week, it would have all been Sean, wouldn't it? I mean, there's so much material, especially with that speech impediment of his we all loved. We've done a lot with that, you know. It's. I've even got time for Zardoz. I'm not a regular watcher, but it's unique, you know.
I'm not sure I've ever made it all the way through.
It's one of those films, isn't it? Yeah. It comes on late at night and you see a bit and you go, what? And then you do something else because you're pissed or whatever. It's like that film with Michael Caine and the pirates that occasionally pops on. If anyone out there has ever seen that, it's mad. It's Michael Caine and his son, and there's an island where pirates have kept living and they're all kind of inbred, and he ends up fighting them. People think it doesn't exist, but it pops up on telly every now and then. So, yeah, you know.
Are you sure you haven't just imagined this movie?
Yeah. And then my mum turned up with the head of an Alsatian and it got really, oh, hang on, I dreamt it. No, I get to a point where I think I've dreamt this film, but it does exist. But it's also got the guy from Lovejoy on it, who's the what's his name, Tinker. He's in it. For our international audience, that was a character actor in a well-beloved TV series.
I'm sure you just mashed this up on a Sunday evening in your imagination, Jim.
Yeah, so yet again, I'm doubted. But one night, if you're watching telly, it will turn up. It chooses its moment, and you will not make it all the way through. You'll just keep watching bits of it.
It's in there. Have you developed any fans yet? Who want to track down the movie and drop it into the comments section of this video or wherever you're listening to it, please do.
Yeah, please. If he thinks I'm nuts,
about the Orson Welles.
Oh yeah, it was the anniversary of the War of the Worlds when he did a radio play of it, and being Orson Welles, he went a bit high concept and did it as radio, actual news broadcasts, and you know, and it confused some people. As I think Kevin McVeigh, one of the people on, I think he pointed out, it wasn't the whole nation went wild by any means, but what did happen was, there was people firing shotguns at water towers in the fog because it looked like walkers, and people like barricading towns off and refusing to speak to the police, and so there was this and that going on. It's probably been overdone a bit, but it's interesting actually. If you go and listen to it, it clearly isn't really happening because it happened so quickly. It's like it's landed and they're building this thing, and it's like days worth squeezed into half an hour or whatever. But people
is
did
that
fall for it.
Maybe. Did they divide it up like between other programs maybe at the time?
Yeah, I think actually if I recall rightly, is one of his pals says that he was because they did regular radio shows, and he was pissed off because they kept losing people to this this is the radio, bear in mind, a ventriloquist act on the opposite channel. And this, rightfully,
you just have to imagine the puppet. There's a puppet here, I swear.
Yeah, you don't even have to. Yeah, don't even have to close your mouth, do you? It's like the bottle of beer. God, this ventriloquist is really good. And he was so pissed off. Apparently, the shocking news thing they put in the thing so that there was like a musical bit in the middle of the ventriloquist show, and people go, "Oh, I've listened to Orson Welles, some crap on the other side," and that's when that kicked in. So a lot of people fell for that. If you take me, so he may have done that, or maybe it was a coincidence. But he was quite shocked the next day. It shocked a lot of people. But that's it. Yeah, he was always trying out new stuff. I mean, have you seen a lot of people? You can probably get this on YouTube. It's a film he made called F for Fake, and it doesn't involve inbred pirates. Or Michael Caine. What it is, he basically invented the YouTube video, because it's just him popping up and doing like stuff, and there's lots of fast cuts, and it's like a 1970s hour-long YouTube video. So he was, always ahead of the game. He's always trying to mess with convention, and
I think that's what Orson Welles would have been today. He'd have been that guy who unboxes telephones.
Yeah,
in a factory in America.
Yeah,
somewhere.
quite possible. Well, I think he would have ruled Kickstarter, and he was always on the search for money, to do the next film. I think he could, if he was online and Patreon and Kickstarter and do his films that way, he would have ruled, I think. But he was just the right guy at the wrong time. The system just didn't know how to handle someone like him. But
because he had huge success very early on.
Yeah,
and then he didn't fit into the Hollywood studio system at the time. He was a bit early to be like an auteur director. Maybe he'd have been the Christopher Nolan.
Yes, yeah. Well, he was he had a thing, and he didn't want to do a film. He was doing theatre, and they kept changing the contract. So it got to the point, it was like we won't walk in the studio. We will do nothing. You do what you want. So this is in the 40s. It was the only time that happened, and he could do what he wanted, to the point where him and his mates, they dug a trench in the studio so they could put a camera down low and get like low shots. And the studio, when they found out, were pissed off because they were digging through stuff like that. Actually, in actual fact, Citizen Kane has more effects of its time, but it's still more effects than like a film like The Avengers, maybe, because it's something like 96% of all the shots have some kind of special effect going on, whether that was like a matte painting or a deep focus or whatever. So for its time, it was really high tech. They were pulling out because the people he'd hired, the cameraman, I can't remember his name, but he was big on the noir films, and it was just a license for this young director coming along, and he would just go, "Can I try this? Can I try that?" And they tried everything. And each scene in Citizen Kane has basically become influential to the point where you watch it now, and it's not like you go, "Well, what's this?" I've seen this before. It's too influential. But But I'm really glad to see people are sharing and enjoying Orson Welles. That's really good. Oh God, my cat's going crazy there.
Have you seen the biography movie, the biopic of Welles when he was doing his production of Julius Caesar? Because that's what got him into Hollywood, and he put on this big production. There's many great moments in it, but there's a great moment where the set designer rushes up to young Orson Welles. He's only like very early 20s at the time, and says that I designed the set, but on the program, besides set design, it says Orson Welles. And Orson Welles goes into this towering rage, says, "This is my production. You're only here because I'm putting it on. It's my set. It's my script. I'm Orson Welles."
Yeah. He could bully an entire cast. Just one shouting thing. He was hard work, I think, at times. Fascinating guy to talk to, but yeah, working with maybe.
Well, there was a famous interview with him later on in his career, only a little bit before he did the Unicron cameo.
Yeah,
and it was with someone who was like the Jon Stewart of his day. He was a very famous American TV interviewer. And he made like a whole series of cracks about Orson Welles' weight. Like a whole series of jokes about it. And Orson Welles, like the moment is very hard to explain because he was clearly extremely vulnerable to this. And he said, like in a very open way, well, of course, when I was a younger man, I could stay fit, but now I'm older and it's very difficult for me to keep the weight off. This interview, because the interviewer was seen as really callous, actually like ended the interviewer's career.
No way. It was a bit rough, wasn't it? You couldn't get away with that. Get that kind of thing now. It's
I think like morals change over time. So there's stuff you can say, and then maybe a few years later, it's shifted in people's thinking. And it's about the way you do it. You can never be cruel to somebody. If you're being cruel to somebody, you're always going to be the villain. You know, you've got to keep it in some kind of good humor if you're going to do that.
They're going to clam, from an interview point of view, they're going to clam up, aren't they, as well? It's get on the defense. You're not going to get out the tasty interview stuff, I don't know what you call that, but relax someone. You've got to be a nice guy, and you're a nice cop. No nasty cop. No need for that.
We're talking a good cop and nasty cop.
Good link. There we go. Yeah.
Which one would you be given the option? Let's say we were interrogating Steven Spielberg.
Okay, what's he done?
He's got very good lawyers, so I don't want to accuse him of any actual crimes. Yeah, a parking ticket.
Okay. Parking ticket. Yeah, okay. I think I'm judging by how we, I'd say I haven't got nasty in me. I'm too nice. We could muck around with it. We could swap over, or you could be nasty cop. I could be flirty cop. I could flirt with Spielberg.
That's a good point. Flirty cop and a passive aggressive cop.
Yeah, it's fine. Can I leave you? Park where you like. Come on. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, no, the thing that has been making me laugh all week, and it might just be me, because I've posted this to everywhere that I am on the internet, and because I've been trying to get it to go viral. Okay, so I follow some Instagram accounts that have sci-fi art, and I like it when the art is a bit incongruously funny, and I often post it to the group for like a caption contest or with my own caption. And then I found this, I don't know how to describe it. It's a big muscly guy, and he's basically naked, but he's got like some yoga pants and a cape, and he's wearing a codpiece. And he's holding like he's got like He-Man armlets, and he's holding like a Star Wars style blaster, and he's got like a Roman helmet on. And if you look,
that's what makes it.
It is the helmet, and if you look closely, his hair that you can see under the helmet is the same color as the crest on the helmet. So it's actually, he's got like a Mohican, and then he puts the helmet on
it through the helmet
over it. And it's just the most amazingly over-the-top sci-fi imagery. But what really kills it and makes it wonderful is that he looks like Elon Musk. It's like someone painted a very high quality portrait of Elon Musk's internal fantasy of himself.
Catholic saint. Oh, I see. Yeah. So is it satire? Is it just brilliant prophetic satire?
Well, I posted it to my Instagram, and Colleen Duran, And Colleen Doran is a really famous illustrator, comic book artist. Maybe one of the things she's best known for is drawing a lot of the issues of Neil Gaiman's Sandman. And she's illustrated a lot of his books as well.
Yes.
And she's like a really brilliant artist. And she said that she almost bought this painting because it's by an artist called Rowena Morell.
Nice.
And Rowena at one point was like the artist for slick SF book covers. So I don't know what this was the cover to, but it's been amusing me all week looking at it, because for me it is Elon Musk of Mars.
Yes.
I think it's a Netflix series that has to happen.
It's his dream, isn't it? I tell you what, though, that hard nut to crack Spielberg. If we wanted to crack Spielberg, us two as nasty cop, and then come on, Spielberg, this parking ticket of yours, just you ain't walking out of here or whatever. And then the door opens and Elon Musk of Mars walks in, and I think that'd break him. It'd break me. But yeah.
How do you feel about like the science fiction aesthetic?
Oh, because a bit of a good one.
Yeah, because I listened to, as research, I listened to some other science fiction podcasts, because I was thinking that we might get like some radio call signs and stuff. And they all had, really with one exception, they all had like bleep, 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 bloop noises in the background and like TARDIS noises. Because, there's a certain set of things that go with sci-fi and they become such a cliche.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to take them seriously. And
do you
this
think
is
we
like,
need
in a way,
block, then?
Well, no, that's exactly what I don't want.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, because I take science fiction arguably too seriously. So I want to try to like redefine science fiction as some kind of like minimalist, modernist aesthetic. When people think of science fiction, it's like grey and beige imagery, and maybe more like 1970s J.G. Ballard sci-fi.
I could like maybe come on and play one note on an oboe at the start, and that'd be our weird sound.
Then there's just silence.
Silence for about 2 minutes.
2 minutes, and then good evening, welcome to science fiction. Bum bum bum.
Or the sound of a whale, maybe. Yeah, that's just high concept. That's
and it cuts to us both in like suede jackets. And it's like it's very, very early color television footage, and we're both smoking cigarettes. Both smoking around a table.
Oh man, yeah, it's kind of like Hello, welcome to the Sci-Fi Hour. Like that. I need big, thick glasses, and I've got the beard and the hair for this. Actually, the 1970s professor look.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't know. It's because I suppose everyone's stuck in that 1950s Reagan. Yeah. If you do a drawing of a Reagan, the people go, "Oh, that's sci-fi." You don't really get that if you draw a picture of a neural jack from Neuromancer of the 80s. People go, "What the hell's that?" The Reagan hasn't been replaced. I think there's a quote where Ballard, actually, now we're talking about J.J. Ballard, he said, people are obsessed with dragging out the skeleton of 1940s sci-fi out of its grave and placing electric flowers on it, which is very Ballard saying. But there's still quite a bit of that. And it's like nearly a bloody century. It's on its way to be a century ago, isn't it?
Yeah, because we are in the year 2020. We're far past most of the futures that were depicted in the sci-fi of the 1940s, but science fiction is still the aesthetic of 1940s sci-fi.
Yeah, people are still locked. You always get people like going, "Oh, where's my flying car?" It's like, "Oh, shut the fuck up." enjoy your crazy president and this is the future.
Look, we could make you a flying car. What we can't do is ensure the safety of flying cars from crashing into other people's houses.
But maybe you don't care, you libertarian dick.
Well, it it is like a sci-fi America. I'm sure I can't be the first person to make this point, that America seems to have become science fictional. I think around 2013. I think it was a bit earlier than Trump's election. Because now they have a reality TV star president, and they've got cities being taken over by radical protesters. And here's the thing that like absolutely fascinated me when I found it out. You know, in every cyberpunk movie, and lots of episodes of Star Trek as well, like people in the future around 2030, they have like geometric face makeup.
Oh, yeah, like your 80s.
Why would that be?
You're romantic.
And now all the protesters in Hong Kong, where they have facial recognition, they all have geometric face makeup because it disrupts the facial recognition on the cameras.
Whoa.
So that's why we were doing that.
That's why we're, That's weird how that's explained.
That's strange, isn't it?
Sheerly aesthetic. You know, that's, Wow. Could you use like, sorry,
It's like there's a bit of a transatlantic thing as well, because the Americans kind of own that era of science fiction. So they kind of like it. Either they genuinely like it or they like it in a kind of retro way. But over in Britain, we've always been a bit skeptical of it. Well, we have our own version, like Doctor Who science fiction fandom is our version of it, and like TARDIS noises. But we've always wanted science fiction to be a bit more serious and edgy and
a bit
political.
More dour, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, like, here in the future, we all eat this grey goo and walk around in overalls. Whereas in America, it's more like, I've got a flying car.
Well, these are really just actual descriptions of the difference between America and Britain, I think.
Yeah, basically. That's half the reason about Brexit was the grey goo, you know, keep it British. But it's but obviously recent that's sort of changing. There's new, the sort of the new diversity you've had in the last 10, 15 years. I don't know. It's always been bubbling on, but we're sort of moving away from that. Maybe new.
Well, that
new
is the new aesthetic of science fiction, isn't it? It's science fiction that is global, that draws on all of the cultures of the world, that isn't just a kind of Western vision of what the near or far future would be.
Well, that's it, or breaking away from fantasy, sort of European. Like, I don't know if the World Fantasy Award winner, I think it's called the Unconquered, Queen of the Conquered, Queen of the Unconquered, by Calendar, Case and Calendar.
Let's see if we can bring up that list, because it was posted to the group.
Yes.
This week, and the World Fantasy Awards, I think, are always the highest quality of the science fiction, the published science fiction awards. I've always really enjoyed them, and I used to follow them very, very closely. And there was a period when I was reading a lot, especially reading a lot of short fiction, and I was doing my review column with The Guardian, and I would tweet what I thought was going to be on the shortlist for the World Fantasy Award, 3 or 4 years running, and that was just what was on the shortlist for the World Fantasy Award where it came out, because that's how much attention I was paying to them. And then this year I looked, and I barely recognised anyone on the list, because I just haven't been reading in the same way for the last 2 years.
Same here, really. I mean, I recognised, was it Gideon the Ninth? I'm surprised that didn't win, actually. But then I suppose it's a judged thing, so the judges pick what they're really into. But I was kind of interested in the Queen of the Conquered, because we were just saying about, new idea. It's set, and this is fascinating me, it's set in a fantasy world that sort of the template, if you will, is the Caribbean in the 19th century. And I thought that's really interesting. I've not seen anything quite like that, as in terms of, take it. People tend to go a bit older, don't they? A bit more, it's just, I'd never thought of that. And so I'm kind of intrigued to read, actually. So awards work. That's at least one book that probably might sell.
Mm.
So I'll probably buy. So yeah. So
But it's always been this this terrible cliche of the fantasy novel that you open up to the facing page, and it's clearly a map of Western Europe, but with mountain ranges that pay no attention to plate tectonics, and there's a place on the map that is the center of evil. In the world, which is like roughly where Germany would be, or something like that.
Or something like that. Yeah, it's more. Do you ever do that thing where I have this thing where if I get a fantasy book with a map and I know nothing about it, I pick where I live. I'm getting really good at it. It's like, what are my chances? Because if you go for a coastal city, you're probably going to be all right. But if you had something in the middle with some name like, the wasteland, you're probably screwed. But then this is sort of
never good to be living in the wasteland.
Yeah, the Azeroth. That's unless it's really ironic and they're all elves and whatever. But then you got this sort of mid-ground thing of places called Maryville and stuff. It could be ironic, could be really nice. It's a good game if you read a fantasy book and you know nothing about the setting. It's sort of see whether you'd be all right or not.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, what were we talking about?
Well, why is fantasy so into history? Why so much of fantasy like a reimagining? Because we've got Tolkien, and Tolkien writes Lord of the Rings, and it's clearly like, I guess, Dark Ages Europe, something like that. That general period. You've got Horse Lord Kingdom, some kind of fallen empire, a bit like the Roman Empire, evil brown people off in another direction.
Over there.
And then because it's great, it's huge, really imaginative to then take another culture, another period of history. But why do we spin out fantasies from history? I don't really know.
So what else could you do? I mean, you could set a fantasy in an office in Milton Keynes, but
well, there's another stream of fantasy which is like the weird city fantasy. So you got like Melville's New Crogazon, Terry Pratchett to an extent. You've got Ankh-Morpork there, and many of the stories are about the dynamic of it. And I guess we're always reimagining the world. In some way, as opposed to just going somewhere like, why do our fantasy worlds even have to have the same laws of physics or the same manifestations of life? Or because it's a fantasy.
I think I guess there's an element of comfort. People just want a bit of comfort, don't they? They don't. I don't know. A lot of people, you get people saying that fantasy is an inherently conservative genre. I don't think that's necessarily true, but it's easy to lean that way, I suppose. You'd find an audience. So it's interesting stuff. It'd be there is a sort of a history paradigm there, isn't there? It's very hard to get away from.
I guess we want to tell like stories, like archetypal characters, but they would work very differently if they were based in the year 2020, because our lives are really weird.
Yeah, that's true.
Now,
even in 1978, that'd be a bit odd. Yeah,
and very disrupted by technology as well. Lord of the Rings with mobile phones would be a very different story.
It's quickly phone me up, Yeah, got a ring, mate. I'll post it. Slop it in the fire. It's most things are ruined by mobile phones, story-wise. But that's it. Maybe we maybe lack the mythopoetic. Poet? How do you say that? It's
mythopoetic.
Mythopoetic. Well, that kind of power, that kind of hammer of mythology that lies, or whatever. Something just basic and there, real tangible, but not. Sorry, I'm blathering. But I guess that's it. People just like to return to that. have that in their lives, you know. So you were saying about Terry Pratchett there. You raised a Terry Pratchett question on the side, didn't you? About which is your favourite Pratchett book?
What is the best?
What is the best?
Or your favourite Pratchett book? Because I think it's better to put these questions in terms of what you like rather than which is the absolute best.
Best.
Because sometimes I throw those things out there, or I'll write like a blog post saying like, this is absolutely singularly without argument the best Terry Pratchett book.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
and then there's like an enraged response to that.
Yeah,
because
is that what you do?
What is it about? Well, if you ask absolute questions,
okay,
people respond differently than if it's their opinion about something.
Right. How so? They just get more forthright, or they...
Well, I think it's something that, like, culturally, we don't like the idea that there might be a best Terry Pratchett book. That's like an objectionable idea to our culture. Even though, so if you ask people the question, what's your favorite Terry Pratchett book? Like Small Gods will come up like 50% of the time.
I'd be in that group.
Yeah. And then the Guards books get like 30%. And then you get like 20% picking a few more unusual ones. But Small Gods just gets 50% of the vote. If I wrote a post saying Small Gods is absolutely without any argument the best Terry Pratchett book, 90% of people would say, no, that's unacceptable.
Even though we have some evidence for that. Yeah, okay. For God's sake, then it's the worst.
I think it is the best Terry Pratchett book.
Yeah.
So, you know, to play devil's advocate against the many people who, because we had like 100 responses to that question. On the group. Because Terry Pratchett is, or, you know, sadly was, but his books are still a publishing phenomenon.
Absolutely.
There were people whose job in a Waterstones was to just restock the Terry Pratchett section. Because like in a busy train station Waterstones, you'd have Terry Pratchett, you'd put stuff on the Terry Pratchett shelf, and a few hours later it's all gone. Because people, you know, people have bought like the same Terry Pratchett book like 10 or 15 times because they lose it or they give it to somebody.
Read this.
And or they don't have it with them and they're getting on a train and they just want to read it again.
It's one of those few times that it's you know, it's easy to read, but absolutely mind-blowing in its own little sort of way. That's a hard trick to pull off, isn't it? Especially
there's a whole field of comedy, sci-fi, or fantasy, and lots of people try to write it. You can find lots of self-published comedy, sci-fi, and fantasy, but hardly anybody can do it. So you've got Terry Pratchett, you've got Douglas Adams, got maybe John Scalzi over in America. I'm sure there's a few others as well. But really hard to combine these two things. But Pratchett did it the best of anybody, and at least the most consistently, because he has like Shakespeare levels of output. There's 2 Terry Pratchett books, 2 or 3 books every year. 25 years, 30 years.
Incredible. He's what is the sorry, my brain just went then. I had something about it. But what is the because if I sat down to write a comedy fantasy, instantly I'm going, this is Pratchett. He pretty much owns that. You'd have to really think outside the box, wouldn't you?
It would be hard. It would be very hard to do. I think you'd have to say to everyone, look, this is me trying to do Terry Pratchett, and if it's terrible, shoot me. But if you enjoy it, let's just acknowledge that it's Terry Pratchett's territory, and I'm just playing around in it.
He totally owned that area. What's your favourite Pratchett book?
Well, it's between Small Gods and going postal.
Oh, yeah.
Because Pratchett's thing, so there's a quote by Neil Gaiman about Terry Pratchett where he says, basically, the thing that people didn't get about Terry Pratchett is that he wasn't a funny man. He was a very angry man.
Right, yeah.
And that anger, because again, if I wanted to troll fantasy fandom, I would write the post. Terry Pratchett wasn't a fantasy writer. He was a satirist.
Oh, right. Ooh.
The
knives. Yeah.
Because it's like this satire, and he is like a kind of Swiftian satirist. But whereas Jonathan Swift kind of moved on to different things, Terry Pratchett sets all of his satires in the same world. So Discworld is it could be a world that like Gulliver and Gulliver's Travels is turning up at in a way. And this fantasy backdrop lets him satirize these things that he's very angry about. So in Going Postal, he's very angry about the way that like big corporations degrade our institutions. So you've got the post office, the archetypal institution, and then you've got this evil capitalist who runs like the signal system. And it's this brilliant portrait of an evil capitalist in there. But then in Small Gods, he takes on like the ultimate thing he's angry about, which is God and religion. And that powers this really funny, like beautiful story.
Yes. It's almost like he chooses to laugh rather than cry, really, at life. It's things it does. It's Small Gods. It's just, I think that's amazing that he was like an atheist, but at the end, I mean, spoilers, but the very last scene with the desert is a really good defense of religion, or at least faith. And I think that's an incredible thing when it's something you don't, whatever it is, if it's something you don't believe in, but you can articulate it and the best of it, perhaps better than some people who believe in it. That's an incredible, that's just hats off to that. Few of us can do that. And I think that's a testament to his skill.
That's what he was trying to get to. I think that's what his anger was about, was that he did believe in the possibility of a transcendent something, but the church is in between that. It's everything that isn't, whilst claiming to be the gateway to it. And you don't need gods for whatever this is either. Gods are just another like manifestation of the mundane.
Aren't the stars enough? Do they need to be explained as invented by a god or whatever? The beauty, just the transcendence of what they are alone is an incredible thing. But so it's a very open-minded book. Even though it could easily have been a very sort of, it could have been an absolutely anti-faith screed, couldn't it? It could have been the structure there, whatever, the world there, but it throws you. It's beautiful work. For me, if there's one book that's his great book, it's that. But I could, I've got a lot of time for Going Postal. Luckily, they're both books of his I've read. I think I've only read about 8 or 9 books. So I'm in good.
Well, that's the thing with Pratchett. You say you've only read 8 or 9 of his.
9,
of his books, which you probably can't say about anybody else.
If I've read 8 or 9 books of George Orwell, I've done the lot. that's the confidence with Pratchett. I'm a mere dilettante. So yeah.
I think there is a kind of line from Orwell to Pratchett.
Anger.
Anger. I think in a way, if Orwell had been funnier, he could have been Pratchett. You could almost see Terry Pratchett's 1984.
Oh gosh. I'd love to have seen that. You could have done a take on that. I think they're both writers of decent. They're not. Their morality is like, come on, be decent. Let's be not. I think it's not a highly detailed morality. It's a very simple, come on, do right by people. And that gives them a clarity of vision. Their moral vision is, glass. It's clear cut. I think that powers them. I think you're right, actually. Yeah. They're both very powered by that. Yeah.
It's almost like I'm echoing in my ear. I can hear myself speaking. Like a English, like religion in a way, not a religion, but people like Orwell and an English morality, like Orwell, Pratchett, maybe Douglas Adams as well, or even Neil Gaiman, and they're all expressing quite, I'm struggling for the words for it, like a way of seeing the world that is not religious, but has space for something transcendent within it, but doesn't need to define itself.
Yeah, and it's just, let people be, let them do the thing. I think it goes, actually, Orwell wrote an essay on Charles Dickens, and he says about him, he says he doesn't really bother, he sees Dickens as having a face, not the face you see in the photos, it's the face of reading his books, and it's a laughing face, but it's a laughter of anger, but a forgiveness in that anger. I don't know how he phrases it, but it's that, but a great capability to forgive. So maybe it's that sort of that Dickens route. I don't know. He had that sort of thing of treat people decently, didn't he? So yeah. I'm sure there's probably a term for this kind of literature that we really should be privy to. But,
well, maybe not. I mean, you could probably, maybe it kind of starts with Dickens. Probably goes back a bit earlier. My literary history isn't quite good enough, but Dickens through to Pratchett. That whether they're literary writers or genre writers, or whether it's fantasy or realism, there's something very shared in that whole evolution of storytelling.
Yeah, maybe it's a decency in the post-industrial age, or in the age of the industrial city. From Dickens onwards, sort of how do we handle this? Yeah, we're going postal is very Dickens, isn't it? I suppose that's a great example of it. This new technology, and how do we do right by everyone?
Yeah.
Because
one of Pratchett's earlier books, because Pratchett, every book has this high concept. It's the thing it's satirizing. So I think you have making movies, or was it Silver Screen? I can't remember. And that's like Hollywood. And he also did one on the music industry in Discworld.
Yes, and there is, isn't there?
What it really captured was the insanity of becoming a rock star, because people are very young and they're doing, and then they get caught up in this magic that's beyond them.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't read that book for 25 years, so I can only just vaguely remember it. But
yeah. No, that's and also because he's satirizing all these different elements, 2 or 3 times a year in these books. I suppose the Discworld, or Ankh-Morpork, is certainly one of the fastest evolving cities in terms of technology.
I have seen an essay, kind of projecting the technological development of Discworld and how it happens and where it would have gone to if Pratchett hadn't very sadly got ill.
Yeah.
There's some of his
silly singularity.
It would have been great to get it to the year 2020. And for Pratchett to have been satirizing the US presidential election or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Trump's just he's an engine for that stuff, isn't he? He's for the satirist.
He is like a Terry Pratchett character.
He's a fictional character could come real, It's I think a lot of if he gets voted out, I think a lot of satirists and comedians are going to be secretly a little bit annoyed. It's like Biden hasn't got the same kind of material, really. It's like when Thatcher got kicked out. It's not the same.
Well, do you remember the comedian Michelle Wolf? She did early on in Trump's reign. She did the first journalist dinner, and the tradition is to have a comedian who like
Yes.
roasts the president and the presidential people. And she did it, and she did it brilliantly. And the Trump people were really annoyed with her. And then at the end of her roasting, he says, do you know who's really responsible for all this? It's you. And she's pointing at all the journalists in the room. She says, you don't hate Trump, you love Trump, because Trump sells your books, and Trump brings in the people for the ads on your cable channels. And then I think she said something too true, and she was like pushed off.
Well, not having that. Yeah, showed the workings of the sausage factory.
But we strayed into political territory.
You're right, politics.
There, because you know there is the argument. Often it comes up often when political stuff is posted to like sci-fi groups. This is a sci-fi group, and there shouldn't be anything political here. And there's definitely, I wouldn't want someone to just post directly about Trump's election, but I did make a post.
People do that. We have to remove it, actually.
I did make a post congratulating Baron Harkonnen on outperforming the polls, and should he win, I will wear my heart plug
with pride.
With pride.
I look forward to being ruled by him. Well, actually, I mean, I think that's Harkonnen. Baron Harkonnen is. There is a connection between him and Trump in a way, because they're both leaders that make your worst behaviours okay. Everyone around,
nice. Yeah.
Everyone around the Baron Harkonnen, he sort of, there's like his guard's a drug addict, and you know, what's his name, the butcher. He's bloody-handed, and he'll permit everyone's worst sins and like sort of encourage them. And I imagine he's doing that to his populace as well. You know, and I'll do what he sort of okays your worst instincts, and I think that goes with Trump as well. He's very. I don't know about the intelligence of Trump, but he's very keen to people's worst instincts, and I think he's had that all his career. That is a kind of leadership you do see. You know, but that's, you know, me and Majune. Love that stuff. So yeah, I think there is a comparison, and they've both got weird hair.
Very similarly grotesque characters, but you're absolutely right. Trump is like the sinner in chief.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why he works is because, and I've definitely been guilty of this, because I'm very liberal in my political views. And when I've done like newspaper column writing and stuff, I've often linked sci-fi to politics to try and talk about, you know, making a better world, because sci-fi can visualize a better world. But I think over on the liberal side, we've become, you know, like so focused on there being a better world that we forget what that means to most people. Because where are we all going to fit into this better world? Because we're all very flawed as people. And if we're constantly taking the high ground, the moral high ground, and that means that Trump just came along, you know, 5-6 years ago now, and said, well, I'm just a sinner.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge you for your sins. I forgive you all for your sins, basically. Vote for me. And that worked very, very well, I think.
Yeah, caught us all off guard. No one expected it happening. A very sci-fi president in all the worst ways.
He is. Well, he's very archetypal. He is like the kings of old, the corrupt king. Like, you'd have a good king and a bad king, and Trump's definitely the bad king. But there's always been people like Trump.
It's very late Roman Republic.
Yeah.
You know, your Crassus, you know, waving around public, being this just going full tilt. Yeah, there's something primal about him in all the worst ways. Yeah. So we keep going political, don't we?
We do. Well, let's finish off with one story of the post-apocalypse, into which the Oreo cookie will survive, because I didn't quite get this story, because apparently they have, so Svalbard is one of these like distant northerly islands and it's been used by various organizations to make bunkers that will survive various apocalyptic events. And the Oreo cookie company, I assume Oreo is a brand of one of these, but I don't know which company it is. Have they actually buried Oreo cookies? Is that what they've done?
No, what it is, I think there's a massive, if I remember rightly, there is like the government there, they did build a big base, and it's nuclear protected. It's like even the doorway, it goes into two different directions. It like redirects a nuclear blast of this big place, and it's got all the seeds and stuff like that. So it's actually a good idea generally, in case anything dies out. Oh, hello. Stuff like that, and coral, and just in case anything dies out and we sort the planet out, we can try and bring it back again. But somehow Oreo's got involved in that because of its lovely, tasty, creamy centre. I don't know. I guess they're paying. I guess it's a publicity stunt or something. I don't know. But
I'm going to alienate any American viewers we might have gathered so far by saying that, in common with many other American snack products, the Oreo cookie is the nastiest cookie you can get. Yeah. It's terrible. Do you know what's the famous American chocolate?
Oh, God.
Because they sell it in England. Hershey's. Okay, so Hershey's chocolate bars taste like vomit.
Dusty vomit.
Dusty, and that's because that when they were developed the recipe, it took a long time for the milk to be horse and carted to the Hershey's factory, so it would go off. So they based the recipe on rancid milk, and it's still made. It's still made today with rancid milk, allegedly. If the lawyers from Hershey's are watching, I'm not going to allege it tastes like vomit. It does taste.
That's opinion. That's opinion. That's allowed. But I've got a lot of American friends who think that good proper chocolate in Britain tastes really greasy and sort of waxy, because it's like not dusty and whatever. I don't know what they're on about.
Well, this is the level that we should be allowed to judge each other on, which is the quality of our snack foods. Because I'm half French, and the French have the best food by a long way, and the English are quite far behind. And then the Americans are like in a distant, rear-facing galaxy of terrible food.
Oh, I don't know. Their meat's really good. They're really good at meat, steak and whatnot. Burgers. I don't know.
Jim, they do a fry up, and then they cover it in icing sugar.
Good God, that sounds amazing. You call that horrendous, I call that breakfast. But that's. I mean, what would you put in? Because I'd put in Jaffa cakes. I think. What foods would you put to survive the apocalypse?
Well, I went through a nutrition enlightenment over the course of this decade, because I had been building up some health problems for myself with my poor diet when I was younger.
Right.
And when I began to improve my diet, so now I look back at like the standard English diet, and I don't think I'd be able to eat it anymore.
Really?
Because now I basically just eat fruit and vegetables.
No Yorkshire pudding for you.
I mean, I would happily like eat a roast dinner and not fully vegetarian, but I am quite vegetarian. So I'm quite limited in what I could put into there in the range of snack foods. But I think it probably would be the San Francisco Mission Street burrito. If I could bring it, because I think if you're going to eat what is essentially junk food, you should go for the best junk food. And the burrito is the king of junk food. There's nothing coming close to it.
Yeah, no, I can see that. You know what I'd put in Svalbard? KP dry roasted peanuts. Helen Jim
Brought to you
brought
by the
to you.
KP Corporation. Go to kp.com and enter your coupon code Damo and Jim's weekly sci-fi roundup.
Or just type nuts into Google. You'll get there.
With a Z.
With a Z. Wonderful.
Okay. I think we're done for another fortnight of the Weekend Sci-Fi.
Yes. Yeah. I look forward to the next one. And thanks for watching. If we haven't been rambling too much, I think we're all right.
If you're enjoying our rambles, do come along and join the Facebook group upon which all of this madness is based. Just search for sci-fi and fantasy. You have to answer the questions when you sign up to join. If you don't answer the questions, you won't be allowed in.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. That's how it is.
Okay. We're done. Goodbye.
Bye.